think things are changing, Brendan. So think about when you're walking across the street, say a crosswalk, it's busy, think New York, right? And you're on your phone and maybe the counterparty walking towards you is on your phone and you bump into one another. Unless you're a complete jerk, what do? You pause, you look that person in the eye, say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I apologize." Right? Like there's a certain intimacy when you're walking past somebody or you're in their personal space. But that's very different than we're in our vehicle, and that same person cuts us off, or heaven forbid, hits my bumper. Right? We have a very different visceral reaction. I think it's possible that what you're talking about 10, 12 years ago, what I used to remember, where I was like, hey, I'm friends with the adjusters. We're trying to sort this out. Like the policyholder, it's our mutual client. Like we've lost that. Why? Well, two reasons. Like one, you've got TPAs that have captured 60% of the claim volume in the property insurance ecosystem. And so now I'm at least in a car, right? I'm not like meeting my staff adjuster on site, the individual who has the power to write the check right then and there, right? So now there's more distance. Moreover, there's geographical distance. What happened to State Farm? I knew every single State Farm adjuster in Southern California by name. They knew me. We did great business together. And 5 years ago, maybe 7, they got an opportunity to relocate as a 1099 contractor to Texas. And basically, they were all more or less fired after 22 years of great service. Like that makes it harder for my team now, who's on the front lines, to develop credible, lasting relationships with, adjusters when they're 3 states away. And this is all made worse by the average tenure for an adjuster right now in property insurance in the continental United States is only 28 months. That's the average. So that accounts for people that have been in the business for 10 and 15 years, right? So what does that turnover look like? It's so difficult for a adjuster who came out of Chico State, for example, who's never swung a hammer in their life, to empathize with why a shop that's doing $100 million a year has an overhead that exceeds chucking a truck down the street, and why their pricing might be a little bit different. Like they have no concept, or how easily a project can go from profitable to non-profitable. Like if you've never swung a hammer and you've never been out there, you don't know like what a knife's edge every single project is on, especially for the repair side of the house. So it's these fundamental challenges that are creating challenges. And what Harrison's curriculum that he's done an amazing job designing and delivering is organized about how do we overcome that? So with that understanding, he's developed this curriculum that's like, all right, who's our audience? And he constantly asks, like, who is the audience for your estimate that you're going to
when you submit an estimate? Who is the true audience?
Right. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I mean, like Harrison, walk them through like that whole scenario for knowing your audience and really putting the adjuster in a position to approve.
Historically, we think the audience is the person we're working with. It's either the TPA reviewer that's commenting, it's the adjuster on site, staff adjuster that's I'm working with. That's not really the audience. Everyone has a boss. And an adjuster, when they approve a claim, they need to take a contractor's estimate, present it to their boss, and explain, here's why I'm going to pay this estimate. Here's why I'm going to pay this claim with this estimate. The better position you put the person you're working with in to defend your estimate to their boss, the more likely you are going to settle that claim. So there's just a slight change in perspective in that we've historically been able to work one-on-one, direct relationships, established relationships. You see the same person. Now you're working with someone far away. It's different every time. One of the other questions I ask in this line of questioning is, how often do you start a claim with one adjuster and 3 weeks later it's somebody new? It gets transferred. They're on vacation, right? This happens all the time. So if you can write an estimate and present a claim that somebody who's never seen this job before, never walked it, never been there, doesn't know the policyholder, if they have an opportunity to understand what you've done and that they can approve it, then you're setting yourself up for success. And unfortunately, that requires a little bit more work up front when it comes to documenting, when it comes to the technology that you use to document, when it comes to the F9 notes, the time and detail you put into your F9 notes as additional justification in your estimates. F9 notes weren't necessary 20 years ago like they are now. Mm-hmm. Generally, people knew how to build. Contractors and adjusters both worked in the field, and you had a relationship based on your experience in the field. Now it's a much more technical administrative role in many ways, where that mutual understanding has gone away. I look at it this way. Contractors have the burden to educate those that work with them as to why they need to do what they do and why they should be paid what they should be paid for that process. Not everybody got into the industry of teaching and educating, right? Your typical estimator is like, I don't want to teach everybody I work with all the time. They should just get it. Let me do my job and pay me. So it's just an understanding of how has the industry changed with the development of TPA work and technology. How has the demographics of the people working in the industry changed, especially on the adjuster side? And once you start to create some sympathy and empathy around the changing demographics, it gets a little easier to understand, hey, this may not be your perfect world as an estimator, but this is the world that we're in. And in order to find success within it, here's the best practices that I have that I can provide you. You figure out which one works best for you that you can incorporate into your role.
See, and I think that what's cool about what you're saying is there's a level of we can't be victims as contractors, right? And it's easy for us to slide into this. Even the biggest, baddest of all of us, they're still sliding often into this position of, I'm just kind of disgruntled about the whole thing. It's easier for me to complain about it than it is for me to understand what I need to invest in to come up with a different solution or a winning strategy. So I do appreciate the fact that when you guys talk about this kind of topic, you're not hesitant to call out the things that have changed that aren't necessarily pretty, that are having a negative impact, or at least let's say having an impact on our job as contractors. And it's requiring us to change the game. But you guys can say that very directly and unapologetically, but you don't say it from the perspective of as a victim. It's like, okay, here's the game. Mm-hmm. The game's different. So let us work with you to equip you and your teams to be able to operate in the new game. And I really appreciate that.